Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everyone who is with us today. This is day 3 of Fun Fashion Week. We're here with Kimmy from all the way from Seattle, super early in the morning. Thank you so much. It was wrong of me to schedule it the second talk. Should have given you the third talk. I'm really sorry. So please accept my apologies. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited about the talk you're going to be showing today and the typeface. In the sneak preview, I was telling everyone that you have this amazing gift to create typefaces that are appetizing. Like, it makes me want to become a graphic designer again, you know? so I mean, I've seen parts of the presentation so far, so it's really, really exciting. And thank you for everyone who is with us, you know, now, and everyone watching this later as well. I will not say more other than thank you, Kimmy, and welcome. And I will come back in around 15 minutes and then we can start, you know, a bit of Q&A. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Right, so I will share my screen. All right. Hello, everyone. As Nadine said, I'm Kimmy from Kimmy Design Co. And I am here to share with you today my newest typeface, Bakewell. Bakewell stems from a reshaping of a playful Scotch Roman into the sans-serif typeface that it is. And by doing this, I experimented with contrast and serif structure to create actually 4 unique typefaces, of which Bakewell is the last. So your first question might be, what is contrast? Contrast is the difference between thick and thin stems. As you can see here, the contrast goes from being low to high to inverse. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. And in doing this, I created a typeface system, which is an extended family of typefaces that all share a common foundation. And in this case, that common foundation is their skeletal structure. So here are the 4 typefaces that I'm going to be talking about today: Winslow Book, Winslow Title, Madley, and Bakewell. And you can see that they all kind of share the same basic principle structure here, yet each one has its own characteristics and own kind of personality that make it unique to itself. So to start from the beginning, I have to go way back. I have been in type design for nearly 10 years. And one of my favorite parts about what I do is getting to see all of the amazing designs that you graphic designers create with my fonts. It's been such a privilege to get to see them all over the world. Here's some pictures that I took of just in the grocery store or in Harry Potter movies. It's been really special. But I would say that one of my favorite places to see my fonts are on book covers. And I kind of take a picture every single time I see it. But what I noticed was my fonts are primarily used in these kind of display headline or cover designs. And that's no surprise, because I have always kind of specialized in display fonts and display typography. So I don't ever really see them as text. And it kind of felt like a great opportunity for me to create a text typeface. So I kind of went with this children's book concept because that's one of my favorite places to see my fonts. I did a ton of research on just different types of typefaces that were in various children's book styles for more mature audiences, like the picture Harry Potter books, or for really young babies or infants. And I landed on a Scotch Roman or modern style. So if you're wondering what that is other than these images, this is kind of the basic principles of the Scotch Roman. You have this really high stroke contrast of like really thin stroke here into a really thick one, the sharply vertical axis, these large ball terminals, a narrow aperture, which is the space kind of here and here on the S, and in between the serifs here on the M. The serifs are typically very broad, flat, and often bracketed. As you can see here, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a slight bracketing. It's very tight, but it is there. And my favorite part about the Scotch Roman style is that it's suitable for both body text and headline settings, which is right up my alley. So the first typeface of my typeface system was Winslow, or Winslow Book. It has that kind of sharply vertical axis, the 90 degrees. It also has ball terminals. Now, in this case, they're a little bit more bulbous in shape. They have a thicker kind of leading in stroke, which gives them kind of a softer curve here, but still have that ball terminal feel. the finials here kind of have this slight swelling, and that was meant to mimic the serifs, which I decided to have this kind of swelling effect as well as a cupping here in the middle. And that was because the Scotch Roman style is a very serious typeface. And because primarily my design brief was to create this for children's books, I wanted it to have a little more playful feel. So I gave it these details that kind of, in my goal, I guess, was to make the words dance along the page instead of have this kind of like straight, serious tone to it. So Winslow has 6 weights, and from light to heavy. And for the italic, I decided to make it a simpler italic, not a super traditional Scotch Roman style, which is a little bit more ornate and exaggerated. I wanted, especially for the more like children's book audience, I wanted it to be a little bit simpler. So I took my reference images and took away all of the text that was there and put back in the text with Winslow book. And I was super happy to see that the typeface worked really well with the imagery. I felt like the relationship between the style of the font worked really well in these settings. So that was great. And in creating the specimen images, I realized that at my core, I am a graphic designer that works with and loves display fonts. So I kept kind of putting Winslow in these display settings. And while I feel like it was like pretty successful, I was happy with it. At the end of the day, I really just wanted to make the font bigger. By making the font bigger, I had to take that contrast and all of the details with Winslow and push them and increase that contrast, which gave us Winslow title. So Winslow title, I would say, is more for a mature audience. It's not necessarily geared towards kids because it falls more in that Scotch Roman style. I think the higher contrast just kind of alludes to a more serious tone. Here are some details. So you can see the ball terminal has much more of a ball effect, not that bulbous, because the leading stroke coming in is so thin that it's much more defined. The swollen finials have the same kind of exaggerated feel to it because this in stroke is so thin. It has that ultra high contrast, the 90-degree axis, similar to Winslow book. The serifs, again, because of the higher contrast, they're much more pronounced. That swelling effect, as well as the cupping, everything is a bit exaggerated, which was really cool and fun to design. For the italic, I kept it at the same 10-degree angle as the Winslow book, but I reworked a lot of the characters to fit more within that Scotch Roman style, the historic kind of Scotch Roman style. Because it's a display typeface, I created a set of stylistic alternates just to kind of give it a little extra flair for people that wanted to add something different to their designs. So you can see, instead of having that swelling kind of tail here or terminal, it comes to a tapered end. The G is a new G, and the S, or the K, sorry, has this kind of curved leg here instead of the straight one. And the Y mimics more the U shape than the B. Here are the two options kind of next to each other. And I ended up liking this stylistic alternate so much that I created a secondary font called Winslow Title Modern, or Mod, just because I was using it so much that I thought maybe people wanted that as well. Because of the elongated serifs, I created these contextual ligatures around the A, since the A kind of always has this spacing issue, especially in these kind of like high contrast big serif typefaces. And because that swelling effect, they couldn't connect to each other just by like bringing the spacing in. They were butting into each other, and you could kind of see these like awkward gaps. So I just kind of split the serifs up and created these contextual ligatures that connect the A to the characters around it. So you can kind of see that it becomes a seamless transition here. Additionally, I created discretionary ligatures that are a little bit more fun and exciting. They, for both the lowercase and the uppercase has the small cap letters kind of lifted and shifted, tucked underneath these big swashes, talking about swashes. I created up to 5 swashes per character. Went a little crazy, but was having a lot of fun. I had never really done anything like this before, and so I just kind of experimenting to see how swashes interacted with the style of the typeface, and ended up coming in with a lot. So I had never created a font like this before, and just had so much fun working with it and making all of the specimen images. It was just like such a joy for me to put all of this together. Here are some of the specimen images. And because it stems from this kind of experimentation and contrast for me, I was curious to see, now that we had taken that contrast and increased it, what happens if we go the other way and take all of that contrast away? And that gave us Madly, or Winslow Slab as it was called for the majority of its life, until I realized that it probably needed its own branding. So Madly has a lot of the same details, I would say, as Winslow Book. It has the more bulbous style terminals here, which is because this leading stroke doesn't have that high contrast. So this curve is a bit less pronounced. Has that 90-degree axis, a lower contrast. These finials, instead of having that swollen kind of feature, they're a bit more blunted. And that's because partly I had to take the serifs and rework them into more of a slab shape. The really bracketed thin serifs don't work as well with the low contrast. So I tried to keep some of the same characteristics. There's a slight swelling and a slight cupping here, but it's kind of been reduced down a bit and simplified. The italic angle again is 10 degrees, but overall I would say the italic is more in line with Winslow Book, where it's very simple, and I wanted these shapes to remain pretty consistent with the upright. They do have these, the italic kind of curls here taper off, but really overall I would say it's much simpler than Winslow Title. I did though bring over all the stylistic alternates from Winslow Title, kind of in their own way, and reworked them for this lower contrast setting. So you can see this kind of curved leg for the K, the alternate G, and all these kind of upturned tails here at the end of the shoulder characters. Here's the 2 options next to each other. So you can kind of see the difference between the regular character set and the stylistic alternate character set. I also brought over the concept of the nested ligatures, but I adapted it a bit to fit the Madly style a bit more. So instead of floating above the swashes, they are touching. So everything is kind of like cohesively built together. Talking about swashes, I also brought over all of the swashes and put them here in different groups that make it easier to access them. You can also, you see that this panel next to the letter pops up when you highlight it. So I reworked all of the swashes to work in this kind of low contrast setting with the new ball terminal style. And I'm not entirely sure why anyone would ever use this many swashes in a design, but I did create a fun swashy alphabet when I was making the specimen images, which I wasn't entirely sure how else to showcase them, but there we are. At the end of the day, though, Madly is a book or body typeface. And I really wanted to focus on making sure that while there were all these stylistic alternates and like headline titling features, that it worked really well in smaller text settings. So in creating the specimen images, I really wanted to make sure that the relationship between the images and the text fit, and that it read really well for longer periods of time, and was really happy with the way that everything came out. It's great. So next up in my process of experimentation was, now that I had this low contrast slab serif typeface, I was curious what happens if we just take those serifs away. And that became Bakewell. Bakewell is a more extensive typeface in its weights, widths, like I would say as the body text portion of this type family goes. It's rooted in kind of the same principles, especially as Madly. I don't know if you can tell, but it's very similar in structure to Madly. It just doesn't have those serifs. I also kind of removed a lot of the swelling and extra features that were kind of muddling the design a bit. So the finial here has kind of a tapering effect. Instead of having the swelling, I just kind of gave the edges all a slight rounding effect. The ball terminals, I gave this tight cornered crotch instead of the kind of curve that all the more bulbous terminals had. The contrast is even a bit lower than Medley. The italic angle I reduced down to 5%, and that was because I added a lot of features from the serif typeface style with these kind of curling tails here at the end. I'll go into, especially for the capitals. I really wanted to focus on making the italic something a little bit unique and different, especially because it's a sans serif that has these ball terminals and a structure that's rooted in a serif kind of style. So here are the two, the upright and the italic two styles. And I am aware that it is not Friday, but I made this on a Friday and I liked it. So to show off my italic, there we are. I did kind of go more extensive with the weights. So it starts with hairline and then it gets actually much denser than any of the serif fonts in this greater family. Here's all of them together, as you can see. I also created 4 different widths from narrow to regular, semi-wide, and wide. And I know that semi-wide isn't that much different than wide, but I actually used Bakewell on my website. And in designing it, I decided that I wanted something that was a little bit wider than the regular and a little bit narrower than the wide. So I created an interpolation of this semi-wide and ended up using it so much that I kept it. Here's the 4 different weights. Oops. So here's kind of an example I was playing around with and just making sure that it read both like big and small. I had a lot of fun putting this all together, but I did bring over one stylistic feature or open type feature because I can't resist an open type feature. It's just these simple ligatures. It's not as decorative, I would say, as the other ones, but still there in case you want a little something extra. So here's me creating a faux logo for a craft spirits distillery here in the Pacific Northwest to show you how great these ligatures work. And in creating these specimen images, again, I wanted to focus on the relationship between the text and imagery and kind of how, and to see how the display and the body text characters all worked, especially together. I actually haven't used all 4 of the typefaces together very much. That's because they were designed kind of sequentially. But for the purpose of this presentation, I put together some mock-up designs that use all 4 of them. So here we have Bakewell, and we have Winslow title, Madly, Bakewell again, Italic, and then Winslow book over here, Madly. It's just kind of been great to see the same structure used very differently. Here again, here is Bakewell and Madly, which I think work really well together because they are essentially the same typeface, but with and without those serifs. The titling here is Winslow title. I also put it into a mock-up children's book since that was the primary focus of Winslow book. Just wanted to see that it worked well. So yeah, these were just some different designs that I came up with to utilize all of them. Any Winslow book, Winslow title, Madly, and last but not least, Bakewell. Thank you.
Amazing. This is beautiful. I love this so much. Like I said at the beginning, it makes me want to be a graphic designer again, just to play with them. I don't know how you do it. And that fake logo, my God, I could spend like a week and I would not come up with that. So yeah, amazing. We don't have a lot of time left, just a few minutes, and we do have some questions. No, it's good. It's good. This was perfect. It's just it's the format of the presentation that they're super quick. So We do have a few questions.
Okay.
There's from Pranavi. She's asking, having 4 designs based on the same skeleton, where do you draw the line between them being 4 different styles of the same type family versus 4 distinct typefaces?
Yeah, that kind of happened naturally when I was originally, because I would kind of start one when I was in development with another. So originally it was Winslow Book, Winslow Title, Winslow Slab, Winslow Sans, and that's what they were named. I mean, they're still named that in their like basic folders. But I think when I was really getting into when I was focusing on each one, especially after Winslow Title, they kind of took on their own personality, and I felt like I was making enough changes that it wasn't necessarily close enough to use all of the same terminology. And I was worried that each one would kind of get muddled in the like, okay, which Winslow is this one? Is this book or is this title, or like too many? And so I decided I also wanted to give each one its own kind of branding and style and aesthetic. And by keeping the same name, I kind of felt like I needed to then like keep the style the same, and it kind of grew and matured and evolved over time. So yeah, that's why. Personal choice.
Cool. Yeah. No, it's a good question. I'm going to interrupt the questions to say, before we forget, I'm going to put this in the chat as well. So Kimmy has been super, super generous, and she has given us a gift for the attendees. If you go to I Love Typography, if you go to Bakewell or Winslow, the 2 versions that we saw today are automatically, they are, and if you put the gift voucher Bakewell into your cart, you get 75% off. This is available for 50 times. So, so go quickly. and so this is super generous. And normally on I Love Typography, we don't go with discounts that high. So this is purely special, nice thank you for everyone who is here. And so just FYI, I've put the links and the code in the chat. So everyone who wants to get it, you can go get it. Let's take one last question. There's one that I will answer from Mythical. We will be able to rewatch this. Yes, it's available on our Facebook page because it's in the stream videos, but also we will be posting it later tonight on our YouTube channel, and we will be sending the link to everyone who signed up for the stock. So you'll definitely have a chance to watch this again. She loves it, but she's on the road and she wants to see it again, which is really cool. Okay. Thank you. And then there's a question from, there's many questions. There's a question from Robert, like about leaving the bold terminals in the Sans version. Maybe you want to answer that one? Like why, what is the reasoning behind that decision?
I mean, I think that there's so many sans serifs out there, and I don't know, I took them away in the beginning, and because that's what you do with a sans serif, they don't normally have these ball terminals. And it just didn't have the same personality, and especially like it didn't have that I don't know, kind of like sweet structure that the rest of the Winslow family had. And so I ended up putting them back because it felt right. It didn't feel right to not have them there. So again, a personal choice.
Yeah, but it's reflective of the personality of the typeface and the reference to the pen movement that you're bringing in, because that seems to be a conscious decision everywhere with the swashes and all of that, to retain that humanity inside of the design. And so that link is quite nice, right?
Yeah. You answered it better than me.
No, it's just because I'm very keen on the idea of referencing the human touch inside typefaces. So I'm always like I see it when it's there. So let's do maybe this is a question from Max. What is your favorite part of the design process, and what are you designing next?
My favorite part is the beginning. Just kind of coming up with an idea, and the first like month or couple months when you're putting together and you're just kind of seeing everything come together is so exciting. And like, oh my God, I can see what this is going to be, and it's going to be so awesome. That's like the best part. And then comes like the nitty gritty, making it actually work. And that takes like 8 times as long and is so not as fun. But yeah, definitely the beginning. And right now, I'm working on a series of typefaces. I got my master's dissertation at the University of Reading like 4 years ago.
Congratulations.
And I did my dissertation on 19th century typefaces. And so I'm kind of diving into that world, particularly the more like decorative ones. So it's been kind of fun and very different from all of this. So
Perfect. Amazing. That's super exciting. Thank you. Thank you so much. There is one question which I think is mine to answer. Is there another talk coming up? Yes. We have 2 talks by Thibaut Fondry in Fun Fashion Week. There is one which is about the Galerie Lafayette project, and one which is Aiglon. I don't know how to say them. He will tell us how to pronounce his new typeface name. And we've swapped them. So the next one is the Galerie Lafayette. And so if you want to see that, you have 3 more minutes to register, or you can just watch it on Facebook while it streams there. So that's it for that like logistics question. Yeah, thank you so much. This has been brilliant, and it makes me want to design as well. I haven't been too busy to design in the last few weeks, but no, really unbelievably gorgeous work. Thank you so much, Kimmy. Thank you for waking up early to join us.
Oh no, I just wanted to give a shout out. It's not just me who makes all these fonts. I have Sergio Martins is my developer and helps with all the production of everything, and I would not be able to do it without him. So while it's me like making a lot of the design decisions, like he helps make it happen, and that's been amazing for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who attended today. Don't forget about the gift from Kimmy, the 75% off, and bravo. And thank you so much, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.